Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days for today's video, which will take us around the 15th of March. We'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles. They run to around a couple of weeks, and we'll have a look at Beijing Climate Centre at the end of the video for the next 40 days. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel, and then you'll be notified when we release the content you want to see. So subscribe to the YouTube channel and also give us a like on video and let us know in the comments what you think, and share the videos if you would like to do that. Now, if we do anything else, I'm going to say a big thank you to our latest PayPal donor. So we've had a donation for Gazovitz through PayPal, and this donor would like to stay anonymous, which is absolutely fine. If you would like to give a donation to Gazovitz but don't want to have a shout out in videos, then that's not a problem. Just let us know when you make your donation, and then we'll just say thank you very much to this anonymous person. So this person knows who they are. I'm sure they're watching the video today. So I'll just say big thank you to Anonymous. That's really kind of you to give us your donation. Thank you so much for doing that, Anonymous. Now, if you would like to become a donor for Gazworthies and get a mention in the videos if you want one, then all you need to do is come to the Gazworthies PayPal page. You sign in to your PayPal account, and then you can give a donation however much you want to Gazworthies. We'll give you a mention in videos and say thank you very much. Either be that through just saying thank you to you as an anonymous person, or give you a mention via your name, and that's absolutely fine. It's not a problem whatsoever. You might want to mention for your website, for your business. You might want to go to your website, give it a plug. We're happy to do that. You might want to mention for somebody else. It could be their birthday, perhaps, or some other sort of shout out to somebody. So again, whatever mention you want, that's absolutely fine. Just let us know when you make your donation. We will give you a little email as well to just confirm and check how you want the mention. So we'll contact you as well. But that's absolutely great. Thanks to everybody for doing that. There's also a Patreon as well. So if you'd like to become a patron for Gazworthies, just come to the Gazworthies Patreon page. We have 61 patrons so far. So hello and a big thank you to our 61 patrons. We hope you're enjoying the content that we're making at Gazworthies at the moment. If you would like to become a patron of Gazworthies, you just need to come to Gazworthies Patreon page, sign up for a Patreon account, assuming you don't already have one, and then give an ongoing monthly donation to Gazworthies. It can be anything from $1 a month upwards. You pull in with all of the other patrons, and that's absolutely fantastic. And a big thank you to all of our patrons for doing that. Whether you do it through Patreon or PayPal, you're going to get a mention in videos if you want one. We'll give you that mention, of course. And you're helping us to pay for the website, gazworthies.com. You're helping us to keep content online. So just a big thank you to all of our patrons and all of our donors. It's very special what you do for Gazworthies. It'll be 2 years in June since we started the Gazworthies PayPal and Patreon pages, and when I began it, I never really knew what the response would be, whether we would even have a response, and just been really blown away by all of you, by your generosity and kindness over the past, not quite 2 years, but it will be 2 years in June. So, yeah, just a huge thank you to all of you for becoming patrons and becoming donors, and for your ongoing support for Gazworthies. It really is very kind, very special what you've done for Gazworthies. So, a big thank you to each and every one of you. And of course, a special thank you, let's not forget, a special thank you to Anonymous for your latest donation. Thank you so much, Anonymous, for that. Right, let's move on then. I'm going to start off with the latest in terms of the Arctic Oscillation observed and forecast chart. So the black line shows where we've been with the Arctic Oscillation, the red lines at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the Arctic Oscillation to go. Remember, it's just an index that's reflecting the atmospheric state. It's not driving anything in its own terms. It just tells us what the atmosphere is doing. When the Arctic Oscillation is in its positive phase, as it has been throughout this winter generally, you've got low pressure up over the pole. You have deep low pressure over the pole, over the Arctic. An intense polar vortex that will drive the westerlies. It will act as an engine, if you like, to driving zonality and it will keep you very unsettled, but also it will keep you mild as well. And as I say, the Arctic Oscillation has been in a very positive phase through its winter. We can actually go back to the beginning of December, just here, with the Arctic Oscillation. That's when this extended phase of the positive AO began, at the beginning of December. Second half of December did see the AO go negative around Christmas, but only very briefly, and then towards the end of December we went really positive. Into January, very positive AO. What's been happening through this winter is that the AO has been spiking up. It can't stay at that level indefinitely, so then it drops down and it spikes back up again. So our first spike happened just here in the first half of December. Our second spike happened in the first half of January. In between we dropped down, and again we dropped down just there. Then we have a third spike in the early part of February, just there. A bit of a drop, and then the biggest spike of all with the Arctic Oscillation, which did take us to record-breaking positive levels, happens around the third week of February, just there. I don't think we'll beat that for this winter and now into spring. I think that will be as high as it gets with the AO. Drops down again. Where we are right now is just there. So we are solidly positive, but it's still a positive, solidly positive Arctic Oscillation. The GFS ensembles are forecasting that to spike up again as we go through towards the middle of March. Not quite getting back to where it was in February, but nevertheless another one of these spikes in the Arctic Oscillation going to be taking place around the middle part of March. And then possibly a drop, and this drop does look quite significant. Looks like this one, we know that when we have these spikes, we do tend to drop. This one looks like it could be taking us back towards ENSO neutral, though. So maybe this will be the final spike of the winter / now into spring. Maybe that will be the final spike, and after that we will see the Arctic Oscillation going into a much more neutral to negative type phase. It's too early to say that definitively, but it certainly looks like the GFS ensembles into the second half of March are seeing quite a big plummet in the AO taking place there. But before then, up to the middle of March, it does look as though we just keep the pattern of a winter, which is driving in those westerly winds, of course. The NEO observed and forecast is very similar. So again, the black line shows where we've been with the NEO. Red lines at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the NEO to go. Just an index that's reflecting atmospheric state. This time looking at the North Atlantic, measuring air pressure really in the North Atlantic between Iceland and the Azores, as opposed to the Arctic Oscillation, which is measuring air pressure in the Arctic. So when the NEO is positive, you're going to have a low pressure around Iceland, you have high pressure through the Azores, you'll strengthen westerlies, driving zonality, and particularly if that's combined with a positive AO, of course. On the other hand, if the NEO goes negative, you'll tend to have higher pressure around Iceland and lower pressure through the Azores, and that's a colder signal. It can sometimes be a colder signal anyway. So through this winter, we have had a positive NEO. There's been the odd day here and there when we've gone down to neutral. We went a little bit negative there with the NEO at the end of January, but overall you see the black line has been trending again pretty much since the beginning of December. This happened last winter as well. The same thing's happened this winter. Since the beginning of December, the NEO has been in its positive phase. It went positive virtually on the first day of meteorological winter. Where we are right now is actually neutral with the NEO, so it is in one of its more sort of neutral type phases that we've been in through this winter. Excuse me. But as we go through the second half of March, or the first half of March into the second half of the month, it looks like the NEO is trending back upwards again. So the positive phase of the AO and the NEO set to continue up to and possibly even beyond the middle part of March. It looks like by the second half of March we might be going back into a neutral sort of situation with the NEO, but certainly no sign of negativity of the NEO. So both the indexes for the next week to 10 days anyway are going to be in their positive phases, and this tells us that unsettled weather and westerlies and zonality and everything that we had previous winter is likely to continue for the next week to 10 days anyway. This is confirmed by the 500 millibar high anomaly flowcharts from Penn State University for the next week to 10 days. We've got the ECMWF on the top, and the GFS, which we'll have a look at in a moment, is on the bottom. So 500 millibars is an area in absolute high pressure and low pressure. I've been moved around by the jet stream. Red extrapolates to high pressure, blue to low pressure. Look what the ECM is showing in the 7 to 10 day time frame, which takes us to the middle of March. Deep areas of below average heights continue over and to the north of the country, as they have done all winter. It's just a continuation of the pattern we've had through winter. The above average heights, the high pressure, continues to be sitting around Spain and into the Med. Bear in mind, this pattern has been going on at least since the beginning of December, probably to some degree since November, maybe even October or late September. It's a extraordinarily long, consistent pattern that we have been in, with no or very, very little deviation. And this is taking us to the middle of March, and we're still in the same broad fundamental setup that we was in probably at the end of September, which is these westerlies just carry on powering through with high pressure to the south, low pressure to the north, deep and intense polar vortex. The westerlies go on and on and on and on. The GFS is very similar. Again, it has that area of above average heights to the south. It has deep below average heights over to the north of the country. In come the westerlies with a strong zonal jet stream as well. No change there. Just looks very unsettled in the week to 10 day time frame. And again, as I say, the pattern of this winter continues at least until the middle of March. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. So red line is a 30-year upper air temperature average. We're at Birmingham today. So, yes, a little bit below average with the temperature. The one difference at the moment is that it is a little bit cooler through this early part of March than it was through much of the winter. I think the reason for that is just that the jet stream's gone a little bit further southwards. Having said that, as we go through towards the beginning of next week, actually the temperatures are lifting up a little bit. So it will turn quite mild and spring-like through the early part of next week, but it will still be pretty unsettled. But after that, it looks like it goes quite chilly again. The thick green line is the operation run, the GFS operation run that I'm going to show you in a moment. You see, that was quite a warm run today, quite a mild run. Certainly not an outlier, perhaps, but certainly at the upper end through the middle of March in the second half of the month. Certainly at the upper end of the ensemble. So that's going to be quite a mild one. But you see that the overall ensemble mean, and many of these ensembles are actually quite cold as we go into the middle of March and second half of the month. So that's the one difference about this month compared to, like, particularly January and February, which were exceptionally mild months. This one is a little bit cooler because we are sometimes, anyway, on the cooler side of jet stream. Rather unsettled as well. Not too bad until the weekend and early next week, but then it gets more unsettled. And this second week of March, which we was at one time looking to maybe be a bit drier, this period just here. We thought this, let's get rid of that, we thought this period just here through the second week of March up to the middle of the month, we thought that might be a drier period, but if anything, it's trending more unsettled as we go through next week and up to the middle of the month too. So fundamentally, very little change on the overall pattern. It remains unsettled. The only difference is that it is a little bit colder than we've had through much of January and February. Temperature anomalies on the 5th to the 13th of March, a little bit below average for the northern half of the country, near normal for England and Wales. Precipitation anomaly from the 5th to the 13th of March, wetter than average for northern and western parts of the country, near normal precipitation inland and for more eastern areas. It does look rather unsettled though, I have to say. So that's how the GFS is looking for Sunday. So Saturday night into Sunday, another bout of wet and windy weather. We're used to those now. Of course, that clears away as we go through into Monday, and we're left with this push of southwesterlies then coming in on Monday. There'll be a lot of very mild air with that, so it will turn really mild at the start of next week, but also unsettled with bouts of rain coming in off the Atlantic as well. Moving through to Tuesday and Wednesday, well, stays unsettled, windy, tightly packed isobars in there as well. And it goes a bit colder then through the middle part of next week as well. So not only windy and showery, showers will turn wintry as the air, we're used to this as well, we've had this lot through this winter, the air starts to come out of Greenland, we start to bring cold air, particularly into the north, turning the showers wintry. Moving up towards day 10, which takes us to the middle part of the month, that's how we look. So some higher pressure starts to get going down towards France. We're also beginning to raise the heights up towards Greenland. There's probably a weather front that's sort of strung out in between those two ridges, going into that sort of area. So somewhere could be very wet there around the middle part of March. Of course, the exact position of that front is critical into who would have rain. To the south of it, probably quite mild. To the north of it, it could be really quite cold. Moving into the extended range of 6 o'clock GFS on how this resolves itself is that eventually high pressure begins to take over to the north and northeast. That starts to push these low pressures southwards. So as we're moving towards the middle and then the second half of March, high pressure is taking over up towards Scandinavia. The wind is swinging into the east, and this is starting to drag colder air out of the east as well. So the 6 o'clock GFS run does finish up, bringing quite a cold easterly wind actually. Following the isobars back, you see that the air is originating from western parts of Russia, and we do have quite a bit of cold air sitting to our east that we can tap into. So that is a little bit of a mini beast from the east there by the 21st of March. Of course, it's over 2 weeks away, so it's very, very unlikely to verify. But we haven't seen much of that within the videos over the past few months because it's been so very, very westerly. That is a little bit of a mini beast there by the 21st of March, but very, very unlikely to verify. Having said that, spring does get more easterly the further on we go, and at some point we will see the end to these westerlies and to the polar vortex, but I would be surprised if we get a really cold easterly like that showing in the second half of March. That's how the GEM is looking, so wet, windy and quite mild over the weekend. It goes colder and showery next week. Another push of mild southwesterlies Monday through to Tuesday. There'll be quite a bit of rain associated with that. And low pressure rain keeps driving in off the Atlantic through next week, stays unsettled up to day 10. That's how we're looking. Again, we've got a deep area of low pressure sitting just to our west. Heights beginning to rise up towards Greenland. So that's in line with what the GFS is showing. A bit of a mid-Atlantic ridge getting going. And some height rises over Scandinavia as well. It's possible the GM would also trend in that sort of direction and move this trough of low pressure southwards, maybe turning the wind into an easterly direction for the second half of March. So the hints are there from the GM too of something a bit more easterly and maybe a bit colder for the second half of March. ECM looks like that, very wet and windy over the weekend. Into next week, mild southwesterlies and more rain at times too. In the second half of next week, low pressure is still driving in off the Atlantic. It is quite cold with these northwesterly winds, certainly cold enough for winteriness over high ground in the north. Moving up to day 10, that's how we look, very unsettled again. Although by day 10 itself, just maybe starting to get a bit of a ridge building out to our west. Not as far north with this ridge as the GFS and the ECM and the GM solution. So the ECM would take quite a lot, I think, from that to get into an easterly. But maybe hints of going a little bit drier and rather cold there as we get through to day 10, 15th of March. These are the precipitation type forecast charts from that ECM run from Meteo.com. So, yes, we're looking at heavy rain down in the south today, but a bit caught out by that rain down in the south today. It looks as though most of that will be across France. It's been further northwards than expected. Although, when I did the weekend forecast, I did say there was a question mark about how far north this low would be and how far north it would bring its rain. So I did sort of highlight the possibility of this in the week ahead forecast, actually. I don't think many forecasters have done that. So, but we have been a bit caught out by this rain down in the south today. That'll get out of the way this evening. And then we go into a drier day, ready for tomorrow. Then over the weekend, wet and windy weather coming in off the Atlantic from Saturday through to Sunday, back to wintry showers. More heavy rain, but with a very mild southwesterly wind. Could be gales with that southwesterly wind, though, early next week. Then back to those wintry showers again, packing into the north and the west. When does our next band of rain push through? Well, there it is. On the 12th of March, a more prolonged spell of rain coming across England and Wales. Heavy wintry showers, snow showers for Scotland and for Northern Ireland. That rain pushes through. We're back to wintry showers in the north and west. Then into weekend of 14th, 15th of March, a band of wet weather sweeps in. Hill snow in the north with that one too. Very unsettled conditions. But as we move up towards day 10, just a few hints of some higher pressure beginning to build in from the west. So just starting to go a little bit drier and colder by the time you get through to the very end of the ECM run. 15th of March. Easy options are on the table within the ECM ensembles today for day 10, which is the 15th of March. We are saying it Met Office 16 members of the ECM ensembles with below average heights to our east and northeast, below average heights to our west-southwest, winds in from west-northwesterly direction, rather unsettled and a bit on the chilly side with that as well. It does include the operational and the control run from the ECM. 16 members of the ECM ensembles with deep low pressure over the country, back just the Atlantic, unleashed, continues up to the middle of March. 15 members of the ECM ensembles for the 15th of March with below average heights to the north, above average heights to the south. That's rather flat and westerly, probably still quite unsettled. 4 with low pressure further north, more high pressure over to the south. That's going to be the driest and mildest option. But only 4 are doing that. Generally, the ECM ensembles still look relatively unsettled up to the middle of March. In 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we got for the 20th of March. So 20 members of the ECM ensembles are going for that sort of Scandinavian high type pattern that we saw with the 6 o'clock GFS run, with above average heights to our north and the prospect of easterly winds there. So that's significantly dry. It is quite a major pattern change, but it is also potentially cold as well, maybe even cold enough to bring wintriness into the east. 17 members of the ECM ensembles have a mid-Atlantic ridge on the 20th of March, with a trough of below average heights over Scandinavia. But again, it's probably a drier option, but could be cold with winds in from the north, northerly winds suggested there. And then 14 have high pressure sort of over and just to the east. So again, it's a drier option, and that's going to be a milder option too, with winds sort of southeasterly. So it looks as though by the third week of March, in the second half of the month, the ECM ensembles are still moving towards that high pressure type idea, or higher pressure type idea. But the position of the high pressure is very uncertain, and we might either go into like a spring-like type spell in the third week of March, but alternatively, we could go quite cold. Finally, the Beijing Climate Centre. So these are 500 millibar hikes broken down into 10-day periods. The first 10-day period will take us from the 6th to the 15th of March. So the coming 10 days does hint at a Scandinavian high, actually, above average heights to our northeast, below average heights to our south-southwest. Looks quite cold and unsettled, that, and potentially going a little bit easterly maybe as well. So quite cold and unsettled from the Beijing Climate Centre in the coming 10 days. The next 10 days looks a lot better. This is the 16th to 25th of March. Better if you want drier conditions and milder. Above average heights and centering over and to the west of the country. Low pressure up to the north. Jet streams push northwards. That looks rather spring-like, I have to say, into the 16th to the 25th of March. Next 10-day period is the 26th of March to the 4th of April. The above average heights then look like they're pulling out into the middle of the Atlantic. That might be a bit transitional, starting spring-like, then maybe going a little bit cooler and more unsettled perhaps by the beginning of April. More of a northwesterly type influence. And then we go through to the final 10-day period, which takes us from the 5th of April to the 14th of April. And now we look pretty bad, actually, with the pattern. We've got high pressure up towards Greenland, below average heights over and to the east of the country. We're on the cold side of a jet stream, and we're under a trough of low pressure. That could be really quite cool and wet as we look towards April, or from the 5th to the 14th of April as well. That's kind of like shades of April 2012. If you remember, back in 2012, we had a very cool and wet April in that month. So that's kind of shades of that a little bit. But of course, that's days 31 to 40, so not worth worrying about. In the more immediate future, more reliable time frame, really, tis the next week to 10 days, staying unsettled up to the middle of March. I think we've established that quite definitively. No real change on the broad setup. The only difference is that as we've gone into March, the jet stream has shifted a little bit southwards, which has started to place us on the cold side of the jet stream a bit more. So we are a little bit colder than we have been through January and February with this unsettled weather. So rather than being very mild or wet, we've got sort of cool, wet weather. And in the north, quite cold at times. Into the second half of March, there are a few hints here that we might start to build up some higher pressure to our north and northeast, possibly flirting with the idea of the easterly winds. I think we need more evidence before we go too far with that idea. Although, as I say, as the spring progresses, easterlies will get more probable and possible. But I think before we get too carried away with the idea of bringing cold easterlies in the second half of March and sort of mini beasts, I think we need to stay cautious about that for the time being. But certainly up to middle of March, very unsettled. The westerlies go on. Right, tomorrow we've got JMA Friday, and we'll also have another week to 10-day video update as well tomorrow, so come back for all of that. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, let us know in the comments what you think, all of that good stuff, and that's all for now. Thanks for watching.